Now we'll be going on to Raffaella, who will be discussing the space between individuality and societal expectations.
Stereotypes are everywhere, and we often absorb them without even realizing it. They tell us what a scientist should look like, or how a real man or a real woman should behave. And when people expect us to fit in a box, they don't just limit the view that they have of us, they also try to shrink us into it. One day, I received a phone call. They said, "Hi, Raffaella. We are contacting you because we would like you to take part in our local TV show." And they explained to me the format. They told me that participants are divided into two categories: cool kids and math nerds. Cool kids are typically stylish, good-looking, confident, socially skilled, but also not very smart, while math nerds are great at math and really smart, but also socially awkward. And in the show, participants have to compete with each other, and as part of these competitions, the cool kids have to study from books and take actual exams, while the math nerds have to improve their social skills and demonstrate their progress. So they told me, of course, we are inviting you as a math nerd. They said, we read a newspaper article about your career in mathematics, and we thought that you'd be the perfect nerd for the show. Can you please come here to our TV studios in 1 week from now and have an interview with us? I said, sure, and I thought, worst case, I'll get a story to tell out of this experience. So before they called me, I had never heard of this show. So I watched all the episodes that were available online before the interview. And I thought, wow, I've never seen anything cringier. But maybe I can still participate on my own terms. It can be fun. So I went to the interview. And there, I met a man who introduced himself as the mind behind the show. He was like, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm Raffaella, the nerd." He got annoyed. He was like, "But you're pretty." I said, "I apologize." I mean, I'm sure many people don't find me pretty. And he said, No, but this is not okay. I did not expect you to be pretty when I read about your career in mathematics. If you take part in the show, we have to work hard on your looks and make sure that you look ugly. I said, okay, let's make something clear before we go on with the interview. I am only willing to participate if I can totally be myself. This includes not changing my appearance, because the fact that I wear dresses and makeup doesn't mean that I'm not a real math nerd. I mean, I have a PhD in mathematics, I teach math at the university, and as a hobby, I visit mathematicians' graves. Am I not a real nerd? And being myself also includes the right to refuse to do anything that I'm not comfortable with doing. I don't want to do anything cringy. I don't want to twerk because you tell me to do so. I don't want to kiss one of your cool kids because it's part of a script. I want to be free to be myself. When he heard these words, he got really mad at me, and he started throwing stereotypes at me. He started by saying, well, I guess that you're not social and you don't have any friends. I said, you'd be surprised to hear how wonderful my friends are. Then he said, well, I guess that you have never, ever, ever kissed a boy in your life. I said, you'd be surprised to hear that I have kissed some boys, but also I kissed a girl and I liked it. He was shocked. This was too much for him. But he kept going on with these stereotypes. He said, well, I guess that you're so rigid that you have never, ever, ever danced anything in your life. And I smiled, because I'm addicted to dancing. But I didn't say this to him. I asked, what can you dance? He said, well, I just took a Lindy Hop course. And I smiled again, because I have been dancing Lindy Hop for years. But again, I didn't say this to him. I said, okay, let's put a swing song on, and let's dance together. Show me your Lindy Hop moves. And when we started dancing, I realized that he's the worst Lindy Hop dancer I've ever seen, because of how rigid he is. And when we finished, he said, wow, you're very rigid as a person, but not as a dancer. I said, you know, that's the bit that you don't get. I'm not rigid as a person. I came here with the intention of taking part in your show after some adjustments, but you were so rigid that you don't want me to take part in it while I am being myself. So I will not take part in it. He said, this is a real pity. I really wanted you to participate because I wanted to change you and teach you how to live your life. I said, it is indeed a pity because I really wanted to teach you how to dance. I left, and I never wanted to see him again, because the only things that were more rigid than his dance moves were his stereotypes. So here is the thing. People love to put others into boxes. They like clear categories. The cool kid or the math nerd. The leader or the follower. The scientist or the artist. The logical thinker or the creative dreamer. But life doesn't work that way. You can be both. You can be a scientist and love art. You can be a nerd and know how to dance. You can be strong and still be vulnerable. You can be quiet and still enjoy the stage. You can be a feminist woman and still struggle sometimes with how you see your own body. You can be independent and still want to be taken care of sometimes. There is a word for the pressure that people feel when they are expected to fit into a stereotype. It's called the stereotype threat. Psychologists have studied it for decades, and research shows that it can impact our performance, how we see ourselves, what we believe that we are capable of, and our career choices. For example, when women are reminded of the stereotype that they are not good at math, their performance on math tests tends to drop, regardless of their actual ability. And this happens because the pressure not to confirm the stereotype consumes mental energy. And I can assure you that if there are so few women in STEM, it is not because they are not talented enough. Stereotype threat is known to affect many groups of people. It doesn't only affect women in STEM, but research shows, for example, that it affects Black students in academic settings, older people in memory tests, and men in tasks that are stereotypically considered as feminine. The effect is real and measurable. But the good news is that there are ways to challenge this. We can create environments where people are free and welcome to be themselves. and where their identity isn't seen as a limitation. We can highlight visible role models that don't fit the stereotype. And even just being aware of the stereotype threat is known to reduce its impact. So next time that someone tries to put you in a box, please don't shrink to fit. Maybe, instead, you can invite them to dance. Thank you.